So we're continuing chapter 9, talking about the battle of the two souls, that each one wants to conquer the body, and the godly soul, of course, wishes for the body to be a vehicle for Torah and mitzvahs, and just be completely compliant with what the soul wants. Um, and basically, all the powers of the soul should be actualized in the limbs of the body, and so forth. So we're up to the words Dahainu Tlas Meichen. It's about halfway through the page,
Yep.
jewish.com/7888. So we're going to talk about how the soul's powers, the godly soul's powers, right? Because we have two souls. So the godly soul's powers fill the limbs of the body in greater detail, just like, a bottle of vodka, because you always need to have a bottle of vodka nearby for a good analogy. Yeah, yeah, the bottle is a vessel, right? But it's supposed to contain vodka. You're supposed to fill it with vodka and then empty it, right? So,
Right.
um, how do the powers of the soul fill the limbs of the body, right? Now, we're not talking about the physical mass of, say, a bone, right? Because it's full. It's full with the mass of the bone. But we're talking about in its functionality and its energy. How does it and its usage? How does it get filled with the vitality and the powers of the godly soul? So, since we established the godly soul wants to convert the whole body to be godly, um, so he's going to go through step by step what that means, what that includes. So he spells it out. The Hainu, this means telas meichin shabaraish, the three intellectual faculties in the head. Yiyu memulayim echachma bina das shemanef shalikis. They should be filled with the chabad, with the wisdom, understanding, and knowledge of the godly soul. So he's saying that physically speaking, there are three different cavities within the head, three different areas within the head. There's the brain of wisdom, there's the brain of understanding, and there's the brain of knowledge. And there's a different chamber, so to speak, within the brain for each of these that are allocated and are useful for each of these type of ways of thinking. Um, like sometimes certain kinds of thoughts are better brought up when you lean back, or sometimes leaning forward helps you bring, deeper concentration because it's different parts of the brain, different that have different functionalities, and they're sort of activated even on a physiological level. They're activated based on where your head is positioned. So what the godly soul is trying to do is utilize all of these different chambers within the mind to be only godly Chabad, only godly wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. So what does that mean? So he starts with wisdom, Shi Chachmas Hashem, which is the wisdom of God. Uvinasa, and the understanding of God. What does that mean? Lehisbainen bigdulase asher adin chekevein. So I have to contemplate, to meditate about God's greatness, which is beyond comprehension, which has no end. So you have the intellect, which is to come up with ideas, to have that flash of an idea, and you have the understanding, um, which is thinking something to its full width and breadth. Um, in other words, taking apart the original idea and expanding it and seeing it to its full expansive depth that it contains. Um, so when we talk about the Chachma and Bina of the godly soul, which is, as mentioned, the a piece of God above, so all of that wisdom and understanding is divine wisdom and understanding, meaning thinking about godly things, meditating about the greatness of God, which of course is beyond any limitation, beyond any comprehension. We're not saying that we're actually fully encompassing, the entire bandwidth of what God is exactly, but at least we're tiptoeing into there. We're exploring that with our faculties that we have. And then once you pass through Chachma and then Bina, Ulahaylid Mehen, to give birth from them, Al Yedei Hadas, through Das, which means connection, becoming intimately connected with these ideas. Hayira b'meicha yufachad Hashem b'libay, that you have fear in your mind and trepidation of God in your heart. So what that means is that the godly soul, its entire she'ifa, its entire desire, its entire raison d'être, as we say in Canada, is not only that the mind should be filled with the intellectual faculties, but even the heart should also be a garment for all of the midas, for all of the emotions of God, to the point that the heart should be filled with these divine ideas. I'm just going to give me 1 second. Sorry, I just had to clear my throat. So
No problem.
Thank you. The way the godly soul brings about the expression of its emotions, it's initiated by the mind. As we said in the beginning of this chapter, chapter 9, that the emotions in the heart are initiated, they're instructed by the mind in the head. And this also relates to what we talked about in chapter 3 of Tanya, where he's describing what is the godly soul. Now we're saying, where is the godly soul? How does it function? But when we were talking about what is the godly soul, we said that the godly soul, it comprises intellectual faculties, 3 of those, and then 7 emotional faculties. But he calls those 3 mothers and seven doubles, 7 offshoots of the mothers, right? So the intellect is the progenitor of the emotions. So, and what that means is that through proper contemplation and connection to the ideas that you're contemplating, that gives birth to real emotions. And the emphasis is on real emotions, not just imaginary emotions, but ones that are lasting and permanent. And how do you make lasting emotions? How do you create a fear and love of God in a lasting way? That happens through the element of das. Das, he says, it's like physical intimacy, where you're becoming one with that entity. So when you study something to the point that you're intimately connected with that, and it's really a part of you, that's when the emotions come forth naturally, organically, and permanently. So the first emotion that we're saying comes as a result from this Chabad procedure, from the wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, i.e., connection mechanism. The first emotion that comes forth is fear. Why? Because fear, actually, even though it's an emotion, it's primarily mind-based. The fear leads into trepidation, which is something that's more heart-based. And after you have this fear or trepidation, then you can go to the love. And the Alter Rebbe continues, "V'avas Hashem ke'esh bayar abelibay kirish heves." The love of Hashem, which is like a fire burning in his heart, like a fiery flame. So after meditating about the greatness of God, which naturally leads into initially fear, a person could then also be aroused with a feeling of love for Hashem. And what kind of love? A love where you want to just attach to the highest level of godliness possible, and your soul is just like trying to jump at the highest point possible. And he describes it further as liyos nichsafa v'gam kolsa nafshay, to be yearning and expiring. His soul is like expiring out of him, b'chasheka v'chafetza, with a attraction and a desire, ledavka by be'ensev baruchu b'chalev v'nefesh u'ma'id, to attach oneself with the infinity of the Blessed One of Hashem, with his entire heart and soul, and being me'umka deliba shel chalal yamani, from the depths of his heart, the right side of the heart. Um, so he's using these expressions of heart, soul, and ma'id. Ma'id means very, but let me see what's the English translation of ma'id. Um, pardon me. His might. Okay, ma'id, might. His heart, his soul, and his might. So, and that those expressions come from the Shema. You should love God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might, right? So, what he's saying is that this is the level of thirst, the level of desire that the soul has, to the point where it's practically expiring or on the verge of expiring. We don't actually want the soul to expire because then you're dead, and then you can't do any mitzvahs, and that could ruin your whole day. But just short of that. That means is that its whole inside should be, permeated with love, male v'gadosh, filled and stuffed with love. So basically, the right side of the heart is just so stuffed and you can even say indoctrinated by the mind's meditation about godliness that it's just bursting with burning love for Hashem. So that's really what the godly soul is trying to accomplish. It's trying to just stuff up that heart with just absolute pure love of God, to the point where it's not even fathomable. It's not even entertainable, any such idea of loving anything but God. But that's only in the right side of the heart, which we said is, not as, it's not the enemy camp. It's not the camp of the Yetzer Hara. It's not the camp of the animal soul, because that's on the left side. But we're not done. The godly soul doesn't stop at the right side of the heart. He says, Ad shetispashet gam lechalal hasmali, until it even spreads to the left side of the heart. Because remember, what does a godly soul ultimately want? It wants to conquer the whole body. That the whole body should be utilized as tools for godliness, for the godly soul. So it's not satisfied with just the right side. It has to spread to the left side where, remember, this is the home base of the animal soul. So essentially, he wants to conquer the enemy and transform the enemy, transform the animal soul into a place of good and holiness. So how do you do that? How do you accomplish that transformation? So in Chassidus, there's two famous words. They're Aramaic words, but they really describe our everyday battles and struggles in life, in serving Hashem. The first word is called iskafia. The second word, which sounds very similar, is ishapcha. Iskafia means from the word kaf. It's like a bent spoon. You're bending something, meaning you're bending your animal soul. Ishapcha means, like on Purim we say v'nahapechu. It got flipped on its head. It did a 180. So iskafia means bending yourself. Ishapcha means transforming yourself. And bending is step one. Transforming is already step 100. Yeah, I mean, it takes 99 bends to get to a transformation. It's a big accomplishment to actually accomplish ishapcha, to really cause a transformation. But the day-to-day struggle, the day-to-day battle that we have between our godly soul and our animal soul is really about iskafia. It's really about just bending yourself, right? By the way, iskafia could play itself out in a variety of ways. Iskafia could mean, I like my pizza with red pepper flakes on top, and it tastes so good. And it's just a Tuesday, and I know that I'll be just as full even if I don't have the red pepper flakes. But iskafia demands that you can do without the red pepper flakes. Skip it. Why? Because you're enjoying Elam Haza too much. You're enjoying this world too much. You're purely doing it just to indulge because you enjoy it. So iskafia says, bend it. In other words, where is this coming from? It's coming from the animal soul who just wants it to taste better, right? You say, hold on, I'm in charge, meaning the godly soul's in charge. I eat food for one purpose and one purpose only, to serve God. Are these red pepper flakes helping me serve God? No. So iskafia means I'm going to skip it. It sounds so benign. It's like, why are you picking a fight against red pepper flakes? Right? I must have said red pepper flakes at least 10 times in the last minute. Red pepper flakes, red pepper flakes. But the point is, hopefully, the next time I consider that, I might tell myself, I'm going to skip it today. Why? Because it's skafia. I'm breaking my animal soul. I'm subduing it. I'm showing him he's not in charge of my life. So that's my own interpretation of iskafia. Another example could be even food that I do need to eat, and I am doing it to serve Hashem. But I know that I can learn an extra 5 minutes and not run to eat lunch right now. So I'll push it off 5 minutes. Why? Because it's kafia. Now you can fully justify the eating lunch as a godly mission and this and that, but everybody knows that the godly mission will be just as well accomplished if you eat lunch 5 minutes later. But the animal soul's mission, which is me, take, and enjoy all day long, that mission is being put to the test and actually is being pushed away with every act of iskafia, every act of bending the animal soul. So let's see the Alter Rebbe's words. To bend the other side. So when the godly soul spreads even to the left side of the heart, it causes a bending and a submission of the animal soul, which is there on the left side, which is it's the foundation of water, of the evil waters in it, which is a taiva that comes from klipas neiga. Basically, we explained in chapter 1 that just as every physical being in this world is comprised of 4 foundational elements, 4 ingredients, if you will. So every piece of paper is made up of fire, wind, water, and dust. Fire, as you see when you light it on fire. Wind, meaning it has an element of movement. Water, in that you can always make it even drier than it is now. It could shrivel up even more. And earth, if you burnt this, what are you left with? Ashes, right? So really, it looks like a paper, but inside there, to some degree, there's an element of each of these 4 things. So he says that the animal soul has 4 spiritual foundations, and just as physical water causes all sorts of delights to grow, on a spiritual level, the spiritual element of water is what gives way for all the enjoyable things of this world. So in other words, what's the spiritual energy behind the desire for red pepper flakes? Sorry to bring up an old, to beat a dead horse, right? But what's the spiritual energy behind that? The spiritual element of water. So the animal soul is all about enjoying things. The whole drive, the whole raison d'être of the animal soul is, I want to have a good time. I want to enjoy life. So anything that's enjoyable and pleasurable, that's what the animal soul is going to drive you towards. So how do you break the animal soul? How do you take over? How do you show him who's boss? By targeting the water, the element of water, the element of desire and pleasure, because that's really the whole core identity of the animal soul. But ultimately, it's not just about bending it and not just crushing it and getting rid of it, because as we know, everything that God created in this world is here for a purpose. But ultimately, the Alter Rebbe says, is l'shanoischa ulahabcha mitanuge olam hazeh la'avas Hashem, to change it and transform it, to make it the opposite of what it was, from pleasures of this world to divine delight. So the ultimate victory in the battle against the animal soul is not only when you subdue your tivus, when you stop eating red pepper flakes, and you just say, I'm not going to care about what I eat, and I'm just not going to care about life at all, but to transform the power of desire itself to holy desires. In other words, instead of loving red pepper flakes and say, the pizza would be only that much better if I put on the red pepper flakes. By the way, I think I'm giving a little giveaway of what I had
What's
for
for
lunch
lunch?
today. You know what I'm
What
saying?
you've already had for lunch. Okay.
Oh, see that's what I'm thinking about. Um,
You're still thinking about it.
I still feel it in my throat. It's so good. My nefesh Bahamis was so satisfied. Um, but the ultimate goal is to not just stop caring about anything, not just to become an apathetic, lump of clay, but instead to be just as passionate about godly things. So that power of desire, that power of passionate excitement, which the animal soul usually channels towards stupidity and silly simple things like red pepper flakes, to channel that to love God, to channel that love because the godly soul is one of these intellectual elites, maybe even dare I say a little nerdy, not so passionate and exciting, but it's the animal soul that has that passion and excitement. So if we could take that passion and excitement and say, okay, no more red pepper flakes, we don't care about that anymore. You know what we do care about? Learning another hour of chassidus, davening for an extra 20 minutes, spending 5 minutes before I begin my prayers to close my eyes and think about what the heck am I doing here? What does it mean that I'm serving God? And to take like like physiological delight in that experience. That's something that means you're now transforming that animal soul, transforming that passion to something that's good and positive, and that's the ultimate goal. So that's hopefully I expressed some of that passion in the way I said that.
Very
In learning
well.
some Tanya in a fiery way, in an exciting way, and may that spill over. I'll speak for myself. May that spill over in the rest of the day in how we serve God and do our mitzvahs, and of course for everyone around us, they should feed off that passion and see the excitement in it as well. Wish you a
Yes.
happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, everyone.
All right.